And for our next story, let's shift focus to the River Nile. Planet Earth's longest river, the Nile is a major freshwater source for multiple African nations. It is also a key economic driver supporting agriculture and fishing. But the river is also a point of contention in Africa and has created a rift among a few countries. On Sunday, a key agreement came into force to promote and coordinate cooperation on the matter of the Nile governance. It is called the Nile Basin Cooperative Framework Agreement, or the CFA. It is the first multilateral effort by the Nile Basin states to create a legal and institutional framework to govern the use and management of the river. It sets up the Nile River Basin Commission, an institutional body to look after the task. While most of the Nile Basin states approved the agreement, some refused. The agreement was signed by the upstream countries, including Ethiopia, Rwanda, South Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. But it was refused by the downstream countries, Egypt and Sudan. Both the nations, while rejecting the agreement, said that they have consistently sought to establish a consensual, all-inclusive mechanism for collaboration among the Nile Basin states. They emphasize that the six-state commission cannot, under any circumstances, be considered representative of the Nile Basin as a whole. The Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, in an event in Cairo, said that preserving Egypt's water resources is an existential issue. Despite the opposition, the agreement came into force. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed called on the non-signatory states to join the effort. He called the CFA agreement as the Nile family, which encourages regional cooperation for the equitable use of the river's resources. However, an Ethiopian project on the river is currently at the heart of the tensions over the River Nile. Ethiopia has been constructing a giant dam on the Nile. It is called the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. It is the largest hydropower project in Africa. The project, which began in 2011, is now nearing completion. Ethiopia views the dam as essential for its economic development. It wants the dam to produce electricity for the majority of the population, which do not have a power supply. But Egypt and Sudan, which lie downstream of the river, say that the project can threaten their water supplies. Egypt, which depends on the Nile for approximately 97% of its drinking water and irrigation supplies, says that the dam would jeopardize food and water security and livelihoods of ordinary Egyptian citizens. Sudan, too, is concerned that if Ethiopia were to gain control over the river, it would affect the water levels that Sudan receives. Now, the dispute over the dam has particularly escalated tensions between Egypt and Ethiopia. Cairo has sided with Ethiopia's rival Somalia over a dispute over the port deal with Somaliland. Earlier this year, Addis Ababa signed a deal with Somalia's breakaway region to gain access to its port, and the deal triggered tensions with Somalia. Cairo has since then provided weapons to Mogadishu and has also offered troops that can replace the Ethiopian soldiers fighting terrorism in Somalia. But the latest details and deal on the Nile River without Egypt's consideration could further trigger tensions between the two countries. Now, can African nations stop their lifeline, the River Nile, from turning into a reason for rivalry?
Firstpost decodes the U.S. election, explains how America chooses its president. Your primer on the race to the White House. Everything you need to know about how America votes and its global implications. U.S. Election Explained. Every Monday and Thursday only on Firstpost.